Chairman General, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It gives me a great pleasure and honor to address at this 40 Group event. 40 Group was one of the few British organizations that I came across when I grew up. Nowadays, it continues to be held in high regard in China by Chinese political and business leaders. Its vision, courage, and contributions to the increased understanding and friendship, as well as the trade between our two countries, is cherished in China. It will go down in history between China and the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was jogging this morning in the Hyde Park, I was struck by a array of color, daffodils, cherry, and many other trees were in full blossom. The beautiful sight once again reminded me that spring is here already. A spring of another kind, spring of cooperation, is also upon us. 2014 has made a great start with the commercial relationship between our two countries flourishing. Since the beginning of this year, there has been waves of Chinese visitors looking for opportunities here in the UK. Deals involving more than £2 billion have been struck, following an all-time high in 2013. The two-way trade in the first 2 months has seen 80% increase year on year, compared to 3.8% increase in China's trade with the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, early this month, the annual meeting of the National People's Congress approved the country's reform and development plan for this year. The plan has 3 objectives: ensure a steady economic growth, expedite economic restructuring, and further reform. What does a steady economic growth mean? The growth target for 2014 was set at about 7.5%, the same rate as in the previous 2 years. You may wonder why 70.5%. Is there a major number? To put it into perspective, at such a rate of growth, China creates 1 Holland in 1 year. In other words, China creates 1 UK every 3 years. The rate is needed to keep our young men and women employed. Every year, more than 10 million young people, including 7 million university graduates, expect to join the workforce in China. It is estimated 1% increase in GDP will create about 1 million new jobs. The government has set upon itself the task of creating 10 million jobs at least this year. I think UK last year, was able to create about 500,000 jobs. We need to create 10 million jobs a year just to keep the young men and women employed. So the job target necessitates the economy to expand by around 7%. Secondly, 7.5% is considered to be achievable. Some commentators have raised us about the target. Immediately, Chinese economy is under very strong downward pressure. Restructuring the economy means eliminating excess capacity, like losing weight. As such, it would impact negatively on the economic growth. In addition, local government debt and company debt constitute a potential threat, potential risk. And the world economic growth is far from certain. Despite the challenges, the Chinese government is pretty confident that the goal is going to be met. Why? The country has huge growth potential. GDP per capita is just about 1/6 of that of the UK's. And the rural to urban migration of over 10 million people a year will provide a powerful driver for the economy, and there's a reform dividend, as we put it. The reforms underway are expected to set free torrents of creativity of millions of people, individuals in China, preparing the economy. So much so, even the president of the Asian Development Bank was quoted as saying that China was not in need of stimulus because it believed the Chinese economy could be expected to expand by around 7.5% this year. The NPC also calls for speeding up of economic restructuring to produce an updated edition of the Chinese economy. What does that mean? Means an economy with an emphasis on quality and productivity improvement and product upgrading. Growth is expected to come mainly from innovation rather than increases of inputs such as labor, capital, and raw materials. In the International Division of Labor, China intends to move up the value chain. It's no longer feasible or desirable for China to export low or mid-end products. Advanced engineering is seen as the way to go. The NPC also calls for the service sector to be nurtured. Last year, for the first time in history, the service sector outweighed the manufacturing in China as a percentage of GDP. The trend is expected to continue. As an important part of the economic restructuring, excess capability is to be reduced. You will see a large number of steel plants and cement plants to be closed down. On the other hand, innovation will be strongly encouraged. As Mr. Li Keqiang put it, innovation is the key to economic restructuring in China. And China's R&D expenditures last year, as a percentage of GDP, exceeded that of the EU. And China will continue to encourage companies to set up R&D centers and beef up the protection of IPR. This year is going to be billed as the year of the reform. Reform is seen as the key to China's future economic development and the only way forward for China. has been given top priority by the current government. I can tell you that among 40 cabinet meetings last year, more than 30 were devoted to reform. The Chinese government is highly committed to comprehensive reforms, determining to make things happen. The reform is now being carried out in earnest. According to Mr. Li, Zhou while decision making is just 10% of the job. 90% of the job is in implementation. Shall I now give you a taste of the reform underway in China? First, administration reform. The government is determined to cut down on the red tape by simplifying administration and reducing regulatory barriers. It has undertaken to eliminate 1/3 of the regulatory approvals in 5 years. Last year, the central government annulled over 400 approvals. 200 more approvals are planned to be done this year. The purpose is to limit government power and give a free hand to the market so that the invisible hand could play a decisive role in resource allocation. Secondly, financial reform. China will develop private banking. In this regard, 3 such banks have recently been approved. Interest rates on deposits will increasingly be determined by the market forces rather than by the government. To expedite the process of internationalization of RMB, China's central bank decided that as of March 17, the daily trading band of RMB with the US dollars will be expanded from 1% to 2%. More and more exchange rates will be determined by supply and demand. China is also promoting the convertibility of RMB and the capital account. And the current account is very much free and convertible. Thirdly, market assets. More sectors will be open to non-state sectors. These include finance, oil and gas, electricity, railway, telecommunications, resources development, and utilities. Non-state sectors will be also encouraged to invest in healthcare, old age care, and tourism. The government intends to provide more opportunities to all investors, including foreign investors, to showcase themselves on the huge stage of China and to thrive in the fertile land of the Chinese economy. Fourthly, opening up to the outside world. China plans to improve access for foreign investors to services sector. The capital requirement for foreign banks to set up subsidiaries in China, for example, will be adjusted downward. It's a very important initiative of opening wider to the outside world. The government decided last year to set up the Shanghai Free Trade Zone. The zone is intended to try out international norms before they are introduced nationwide in 2 or 3 years. For example, with regard to foreign investment, the zone has adopted a negative list, which presumes sectors are open to foreign investors unless specifically excluded. The implementation of the 2014 annual plan will create enormous opportunities. For example, China is now making a major effort to protect the environment by conserving energy, reducing carbon emission, and developing more energy efficiency industries. It is estimated that a total of 500 billion pounds will be spent on environmental protection in the next 5 years. Beijing alone will dedicate 100 billion pounds to this good cause. In the area of urbanization, opportunities also abound. According to the government plan, in the next 6 years, 100 million people will migrate to cities and towns from the countryside. Another 100 million people in cities, who are already in the cities, will have their dwellings upgraded. A further 100 million people will settle in new towns in China's western and central regions. Three 100 million. Imagine the business opportunities in urban planning, housing, health, education. These 3 grand schemes we bring about. China desires to share the opportunities with the rest of the world. It believes in cooperation and mutual benefit. It welcomes foreign businesses to contribute to China's economic development and to share at the same time the fruits of its economic development. The Chinese and British economies are complementary in nature. They have a lot to offer to each other. They are well positioned to become partners for growth, in the words of Prime Minister Cameron. And they are also well positioned to become partners for prosperity. UK companies are welcome to grow with us and be prosperous with us. Where are the opportunities for UK companies? Trade. There's a huge potential for Britain to increase its exports to trade. In the past 4 years, UK exports have doubled. But its share in China's imports has not risen. On the contrary, it has declined to 0.9%. As compared to South Korea's 12%, to Japan's 11%. There are success stories like Range Rover, Bentley, and Burberry. But UK exporters as a whole have struggled to keep pace with the increasingly expanding Chinese market. China imports $1 trillion worth of goods every year, more than twice as much as UK's total exports. China does not only need energy and minerals, it also imports huge amount of branded consumer goods. Here, UK has been able to export salmon, whiskey, pork. The market for capital goods and cutting-edge technology and processes is also huge, amounting some like 1/3 of total China's imports. If UK products are better geared to the Chinese market, I believe they could quickly be snatched up. For example, the UK could well become a major supplier of parts and components to China's automobile and aerospace industries, as it has been able to do for Europe and the US. Investment. The roads in China are not paved with gold, but there are golden opportunities in the country. 2/3 of the US businesses in China reported profits last year, despite many complaints and grievances from the US companies. In the case of UK, I have not heard of a single major UK company pulling out of China in the past 4 years. Numerous investment opportunities exist in many areas: education, healthcare, clean energy, biomedicine, advanced engineering, and manufacturing, to mention just a few. For those of you who are in manufacturing with cutting-edge technology or world-class products, my advice for you would be, if you are planning expansion, consider China as the location. By setting up your plant in China, you'll be able to capitalize China's low-cost manufacturing and huge market, as well as the proximity to many of the dynamic economies in Asia. When you combine your own strengths with that of China, you'll place yourself in an unrivaled position. We have seen more Chinese investment in the UK. Britain has become a major destination for China's outbound investment. There are opportunities to work with Chinese companies. Again, when you ponder an expansion, you might want to take a Chinese company aboard, Chinese companies on board. The experiences of Dynex in Lincoln, PDG in Manchester, London Taxi Company in Coventry, and ScienceSeeker in Pro have all proven to be very positive for the local companies. The Chinese companies have not only provided the badly needed financing, they have also given the UK companies the access, the resources they have, R&D capabilities, overseas marketing network, and access to the Chinese market. All this has enabled the local companies to grow and prosper. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Daily Telegraph, scientists has predicted that 2014 is likely to become the warmest year on record. Higher temperature might not be to everybody's liking. To some of us, it means global warming. While we assume that warmer relationship between our two countries is on everybody's wish list around here tonight, let's hope and work for it. Thank you.